Hello, people. Today I'm going to talk to you about something that is extremely important, probably more important than anything else. I will have to say, and it might be the most important piece of information and advice and guidance that you'll ever hear in your life. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story about a neighborhood where there were lots of burglaries. The people were worried and suffering and scared, and they didn't know what to do. Here's how it started. It started with some things missing from the yard. Bicycles, tricycles, a baseball glove, baseball bat, wheelbarrow, garden tools. Then it got a little scarier because people were going into garages and into people's cars, stealing wallets, credit cards, cell phones, stealing tools from the garage, things like a chainsaw, lawnmower. Then they went into the houses. They started stealing all kinds of things of value and, things personally important to the people who lived in these homes. Jewelry, kitchen utensils, light, small appliances, computers, clothing, furniture. They were just stealing everything. Money, of course, whenever money was left out. The people were getting quite afraid of what was going to happen next and wondering why there were so many burglaries in their neighborhood. So they invited the chief of police and a couple of police officers to come and talk to them about the burglaries. And they said, what's happening? Are there more bad people in our neighborhood? What's up? Why is this happening? So the police officer and the police chief said, well, you have several problems, several things that you could do that you haven't done. Nobody in this neighborhood owns a dog, number one. Number two, it's our understanding that many people leave their doors unlocked and their windows unlocked. Number three, there are no security cameras. Number four, and I'm sorry to say, you'll have to talk to the city government or the town government about this. There are no street lights in your neighborhood. Your neighborhood is quite dark from about, 11 p.m. to 5 or 6 in the morning. You're sort of friendly, but my understanding from our, asking around is people who go on vacation just go and they don't tell their neighbors that they're gone. Newspapers pile up, mail piles up. So the problem is not that there's something really different about the people in this neighborhood or in this vicinity. Your neighborhood is vulnerable because you don't take any precautions. You don't use any measures, especially common measures that are used to increase your security, to make it hard for a burglar. You could put locks on your doors. You could have security systems that sound an alarm and call the police. You could have lights, cameras, everything. So you need to do those things first, and then we'll see if the burglaries continue. So the people listened, but there was still a couple of questions about what was going to happen next. Because I'll tell you, it's about people and how they think and what they do and how they feel about their power to make changes. And I have a working life of about 50 years, and 30 of those years I was in human services, and many of those 30 years as a social worker. So I learned a lot about people and neighborhoods and people growing up. And I remember occasionally we'd have a psychological evaluation of a child or a teenager, and the psychologist or therapist would make comments. Usually, they almost always included, positive comments, because there are positive things to say about practically everyone. And they'd include some criticism, some observations, which kind of explained why this child or this teenager was getting into significant difficulties in school, with the law, etc. And one of the most devastating criticisms that I ever read of a person was in a psychological evaluation where the psychotherapist said this particular child, we'll say it's a male, um, um, an observation, a measurement, you might say, that this psychologist made of this teenager was he doesn't learn from experience. And when I read that, at first I thought almost thought it was a joke. I mean, what a crazy, what a wild thing to say about a person, any person of any age. He doesn't learn from experience. She doesn't learn from experience. I remember thinking to myself, well, what the hell does that mean? Isn't it human to learn from experience? Isn't that what makes us human beings? Because we learn from experience. That's why we have science. That's why we have schools. That's why we grow up. Because we learn from experience. We make mistakes, and if we're good at learning from experience, we make them once, not 2 times, 3 times, or 7 times. So, this is the way your two-party system works. For the last 120 years, the people who are elected and exercise the power of government are elected by 30% of the voters. That's right, 30%, a minority. This has gone on for the past 30 elections at least, 120 years. And during that period, we've experienced a greater and greater actual inequality, economic and social inequality in our society. We have more of an upper class separation from middle and lower classes than many, many other countries, especially the democratic countries, the countries that we deem to be democratic. Sometimes they're socialist, it turns out. But even these socialist countries have greater equality among the population. And they don't have just a small group of very rich and selfish people controlling the government. In that 120 years, the reason a minority is in control of the government is because 40% of our voters don't vote. That's occurred continuously for the past 120 years. So here's the question, a question that is being asked by people all over the world, by Americans, people in Europe, Asia, Africa, South America, everywhere. They're looking at the United States. They're looking at what is happening in the United States, how we cannot solve problems of poverty, how it appears we cannot solve problems of racism, how it appears we cannot deal with disease, how it appears we have inequalities that just continue. And we complain about them and we fret, but nothing's changing. You know, there's violence of all kinds all over the world, but the United States seems to be unique in that armed adults go into churches and schools and kill children. That doesn't happen anywhere else. Why is that? All these people who are watching the United States, including people like myself in our country as well as outside our country, are asking, do Americans learn from experience? Do Americans know how to distinguish between good advice and bad advice? Do they know how to distinguish between the truth and lies? Do Americans know who can be trusted and who should not be trusted? Why does the United States of America have a government which is being wrecked by a handful of selfish rich people? And when will Americans notice what's happening? When will Americans realize that they need to do something? When will Americans understand that they have all the power they need? The power over political parties and elections rests with the people. There's nothing in the Constitution or any state constitution, there couldn't be, that says the United States of America has to have a certain kind of system where there's only one party or only 2 parties. There's no power in an agency of the federal government that can restrict what the people want. I mean, the people, based on the 9th and 10th Amendment of the Constitution, can control the elections. They can make laws for elections. They can require, which is what's implied by our Constitution, that there can't be a legal limit on how many political parties there are or what they stand for even. So the people have the power. And the best thing a neighbor or friend can do for you is to empower you with information. And I'm telling you, this is a judgment I've made. One of the best friends, the neighbors you have, is an organization called Vote Smart. Vote Smart empowers you with information. They give you elaborate, complete information about candidates for office at all levels, from the local level, state level, all the way to the Congress and the presidency. So if you want to know what the candidates say and believe, you can go to Vote Smart. There are others also, so you don't need to restrict yourself to Vote Smart. It's just the one I recommend. And you have to decide whether I'm giving you good advice or bad advice. If you want some more advice and guidance from the Real Democracy Party, you can go to that URL, realdemocracyparty.org, like one word. And I have found that in many cases, actually a easier or quicker way to get there is first search for the John Manamus campaign. And then after you do that, you take a second step and you go to the Revolution by Vote, and you'll get right there, right on the target. And that's the information which explains to you why you live in a burglarized neighborhood, why your elections are being stolen, and why your tax money is being stolen, and whether you know it or not right now, your freedom is being stolen. And when it's all stolen and gone and you have none left, that's when you'll be asking yourself, did I learn from experience? So I wish you the best, and that's why myself and a group of friends have made this effort. We want you to be informed and empowered, and we want you to see the need for elections reforms that will make your political neighborhood safer so that offices cannot be stolen, so that a handful of selfish people can't get control of your government and wreck it. I wish you the best, and this is why I have told you the story of your neighborhood, which has too many burglaries. See you next time.